Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Monday. So what happened today? Not much. The miners were not trading today because of President's Day, so we didn't have anything really going on. So we'll take a look at the miners. What is the market share of the network hash rate for Bitcoin? We'll also take a look at some performance graphs, charts for the miners as far as when, well, not when, at certain different time periods, right? So depending when you got into them, we'll see how they have done compared to Bitcoin. And that's going to be it. We got one story on also miners providing huge economic input, output, I guess you could say. And that's it. We'll get into Q&A. So it should be pretty easy today. And you guys know the drill. Not financial advice for him only. Do your own research. Full disclosure down below that. And then if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And let's get into what happened with Bitcoin today really quick, because that's the only thing that was trading today. Everything else was off today. And Bitcoin was down a little bit today again. So we're still sideways trading, trading sideways, range bound, whatever you want to call it. Bitcoin was down just a little bit today. It was down 0.35%. It closed at 95,781. We're up a little bit on Bitcoin right now, 0.39%. We're at 96,170-ish roughly or so. So not much happening here. It's boring. That's actually pretty boring right now. We'll see how the miners do tomorrow when they get back into trading session, and see whatever else stories we get from them. But that's it. That's all I got for Bitcoin right now. We'll take a look at the network hash rate really quick. That has jumped up to over 800 here on the 30-day average. It is now at 805 exahash. So that has finally come up above 800, which I thought was going to happen by the end of the year. I was off by a month and a half or so it wasn't off too bad. On that one, on the 7-day average, it's kind of up and down right now. It is back up to approximately 824 exahash, but it is still going up in the upwards direction here. So that's kind of what we would expect. If we look at Bitcoin here for the month of February, we're down 6% right now on it. We still have a little bit more days to go before the end of the month here. We'll see if we can maybe squeak out a little bit of a green on February. We've had a couple of years where it was just barely a green month, right? We had it in 2023. We're up just 0.03% here. That was a barely increase. 2018, we're up 0.47%. So maybe we'll squeak out something like that. I'm not expecting anything major here happening in February right now, based on just what we're seeing here in the market with Bitcoin and everything else. So we shall see on that. All right. So let's get into the one story that we do have here, which is Bitcoin mining industry has created over 31,000 jobs in the U.S. A report states that. This is kind of interesting. So it's jobs directly tied with Bitcoin mining and indirectly with other things as far as construction of the data centers, things like that, electrical workers, all of that goes into it as well. But I thought this was kind of interesting. This is definitely good for the industry here. So mining industry has already created over 31,000 jobs in the United States, both directly through mining operations and indirectly through supporting industries. Despite being a nascent sector, a recently published report found. So according to a study conducted by Perryman Group and published by the blockchain advocacy organization Texas Blockchain Council and the Digital Chamber, 12 U.S. states account for the majority of Bitcoin mining activity in the country. Texas had the most jobs created by mining of those 12 states, with over 12,200 jobs created as a direct result of Bitcoin mining in industries that support the mining sector, right? So it's definitely growing up here. The report also found that the mining activities generated more than $4.1 billion in gross domestic product annually and supported local energy utility infrastructure by acting as a load balancing resource for the electrical grid, which is one of the many benefits that Bitcoin provides for the country here. So this is all great news here. Down here, we have a little table here. I thought it was kind of interesting here. You can definitely see here Texas right down here. Total expenditures, $4.2 billion. Gross product, $1.6 billion. Personal income, I thought this was in millions, so that's definitely a lot there. What is that in, what would that be in millions? If that's one, so is that 1 billion? 29 million right there, right? If it's 1,000 in millions, or am I doing that wrong, my math? Or is it actually like 1 million? 196 million, I'm guessing it's 1 billion there. So that's definitely a huge amount there. And employment, 12,219 jobs. Second best would probably be Georgia here. Georgia's got total expenditures of almost $1 billion here, 811 million. Gross product was 316 million, and then personal income was 196 million there. Employment jobs, 2,334, and then everybody else is kind of in between there somewhere on that. So definitely really good news here for the Bitcoin miners in general, for the economic outlook for them and the benefits of Bitcoin mining here. So this is good news. It's the only good news I was able to find actually today. So nonetheless, this is good news. It definitely sheds a nice good light on the industry here. All right, next is going to be on, we're going to take a look at the miners' stock performance over time here. So we're looking at different dates here. We're looking from basically the start of the third quarter in, or fourth quarter in 2024. We're also looking from the start of the second half of 2024 as well. Then from the beginning of last year, and then also from the bottom, where they kind of bottomed out in December of 2022. I'm using the dates for the first of the year, which is pretty close to that. And you can see here that we'll go from the first or the fourth quarter of 2024 onwards to here to now. And we can see that BitDeer has done the best. It's up 137%, followed by HUT8 being up 77%, Riot 73%, Cypher 69%, IREN 68%, and Bitcoin's only up 48% since then. So those guys have definitely outperformed Bitcoin here at least a little bit, if not a lot, like BitDeer. And then we got Cleanspark, Marathon, Core, Hive, and Bitfarms underperforming Bitcoin here in the last basically 4 months, I would say. Looking at price difference from 7/1/2024, so that's basically the second half of 2024. We can see BitDeer doing the best here, up 55%, followed by Bitcoin being up 43%. And then HUT8 is up 34%. Cypher is down below that, along with Core, Riot. And then IREN is just up 3%. And then you got Hive, Marathon, Cleanspark, and Bitfarms actually being negative. All right, so this is where we're seeing a lot of the pain here happening in the miners when people got into them, maybe a little bit higher prices, and they've been holding on to them or dollar cost averaging into them, and you're not doing too good right now. So I completely understand the frustration with some of the miners here. But if we look at the price difference from the beginning of last year to now, we got Core Scientific still doing really well, 263%. Bitcoin's up 101%. And a couple that are pretty close. You got IREN pretty close to Bitcoin at 91%, BitDeer at 85%, HUT 62%, Cypher 43%, and then again Cleanspark, Riot, Marathon, Hive, and Bitfarms underperforming, actually being negative since then. So if you bought any of those, you're not too happy, right? But if we look at from where the miners bottomed out at the end of 2022 in December and into January as well, early part of January, you can see that IREN here is up 993%. That has definitely done very, very well, along with Cypher, up 846% here from those bottoms. And then Bitcoin's up 442%. So if you got in around that time frame, you're probably pretty happy right now, right? Even if you dollar cost average into it, you're still probably up 400, 500% on some of these guys here still. Cleanspark is up 422, so not too far away from where Bitcoin's at. HUT8 is up 400%, Marathon 397, and then you got Riot at 264%, Core 263, Bitfarms 232, Hive is 86%, and BitDeer is at 57% from there. So depending when you got into them, some of these other guys like BitDeer here, if you got into it at the bottom, you're probably not doing as well as you probably would be if you bought into it just in the last 4 months, right? BitDeer here, it's done fantastically. Same thing with Core. If you look at Core here, 263, it's kind of the same where it's been, 263 here from the bottom as well, more or less. So it really does depend on when you get into these miners and whether or not you dollar cost average into them or not. That can be a saving grace for you, especially on some of these guys. And that's just the way that I've played it out. As you guys may know or may not know, I started getting into Cleanspark and Bitfarms back in the early start of 2022, dollar cost average in all the way through 2022, 2023, and even into 2024 as well. So my average shares are still pretty good on those. I'm actually, I think, flat right now on Bitfarms. I'm still up on IREN, and I'm still up on Cleanspark, quite nicely though. So that definitely helps me sleep at night, where I don't have to worry about being underwater basically with those guys. So yeah, I completely understand if you guys are frustrated and in the red on some of these things, because it all really depends on when you got into them and on what time frame you got into them. Okay, so there's that. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin miners market cap here compared to Bitcoin network hash rate. How has that improved here over time? And here is the running basically 24-month total on the network hash rate and the Bitcoin miners. The top chart here shows the blue line is the network hash rate for Bitcoin. The, I guess, pink, whatever you want to call this, fuchsia, I don't know if it's fuchsia or not, whatever this red color here is, that is the miners. what they have as far as hash rate is concerned. So in January, we saw the network hash rate get up to 781 on average. That's for the 30-day average on that one. And January, the miners were at 223 exahash. So, right, that has continued to increase. So has the network hash rate, though. The miners here month over month have increased by 4.6 exahash, and the network only increased by 3.7. So the miners did take a little bit of a market share there. And you can see that happening here in the purple chart, which shows public Bitcoin miners' percentage of Bitcoin network hash rate. It is continuing to increase here, so that's a good sign. And this is even with me taking out TeraWulf here recently, right? So that kind of dropped the number down because they were at close to like 29% if you include TeraWulf in there as well. But TeraWulf is not reporting their monthly production updates anymore, so we can't really track them that well anymore. So nonetheless, with them being taken out, we still have 28.6% of the market share, and that's continuing to increase. So that's a good sign. The publicly traded miners that I cover are increasing their market share here over time, and you can definitely see that. Sometimes they go down, but in the long run, it does seem like they are increasing that. We'll see how that plays out this year. We don't know a lot of the growth that we're going to be seeing here from the miners happening, as what they're going to be growing this year. So it'll be interesting to see how they keep up with the network hash rate, if they can still increase their market share or not on that. And then here you can see how much the miners have month over month increased, right? So the last month they increased about 2.1% here, it looks like, roughly on it. And going down here, we got the actual miners themselves as far as did they individually improve or, well, they increase or decrease their market share compared to others. So we have here a couple of them that have increased. So we got Cypher increased by just 0.15%. Cleanspark increased by 0.5% here. Mara increased quite nicely, almost 0.9% there. And IREN increased by 0.26%. Along with Hive increased just a little bit. Everybody else was actually down. So some of the companies that lost market share were Bitdeer, Bitfarms, CORZ, Hut8, and Riot actually decreased theirs, whereas everybody else has increased their market share that way. Okay? And that's it. That's all I got for you guys. A little nice comparison here to the the network hash rate and the minus comparison to that as far as how they're doing on it. So that's all I have for you guys. We'll get into Q&A now. We'll call it a day. It should be pretty easy. See where that takes us and how long it actually takes us. So, like I said, not much going on here, unfortunately, today. Markets were closed, President's Day, so that's what we have. I'm going to scroll my way up for any questions. If you guys could preface your questions with a question mark or a Q, and then the question I'd appreciate. It makes it easier for me to find them. And if we don't have a lot of them, I'll make it easier here. All right, let's see here. Manu has a question here. Hi, Seb. Biggest Cleanspark shorting is from Susquehanna International, Citadel Group, and Bank of America. It's a hedge fund. It's a hedge. How? Doesn't look like these institutions long BTC. Thanks for all you do. They might be, maybe not long BTC, but they might be long like MicroStrategy. So that's the other way that they could be playing this as well. And if we look at it, let me see if I can pull this up really quick. Let me see if I can look at it to see who's actually in there. Let me see here, institutions. Okay, so let's take a look at Cleanspark institutions here. Hopefully we can pull this up here, and bear with me while I try to move stuff around here really quick. All right, let's see here if we can look at this. So this is from the Webull app that I'm using right now. Okay, here we go, screen. Hopefully you guys can see this. Here is Cleanspark and institutions, right? Institutions increased quite a bit here. We'll get into institution side of things, I think, later on this week as well. I'll run those numbers on that stuff for all the miners as far, but we're seeing some huge increases here just recently, which is quite surprising that they're buying in so heavily here right now, which might be a good sign. It might be also that they would actually let them suckers run a little bit. But we got, let's see here. Let's see if I can do it by percent. I can't do it by percentage. Oh, yeah, I can. Bank of America Global Research increase here as of last date of 12/31, 1,085%. So I think that's Bank of America Global Research. Jane Street Capital, 659%. Morgan Stanley, 226%. Wiley Trading, depending on how many shares they had, 204%. So these guys are definitely increasing their numbers here. And you can see that as well within the last 30 days. This is as of 2/14. Okay, so this is actually pretty recent. So this is as of last Friday here. institutions are buying. They're continuing to buy, but you got some people that are definitely shorting them. Not just Cleanspark here, but others as well. If we look, I don't think I've short. Oh, let's see. Do we have the latest short interest? No, latest short interest is from 131. So we're still waiting on the data to come in for the latest data, which is probably not going to be in for a couple more days or a week even before that comes in. But if we look at CORZ here, check this out. CORZ, huge increase in the number of shares being bought here in the last 30 days. This is as of 131, so this is about 2 weeks old now on the data. But based on this, it's showing that CORZ is like 94% owned. They had a huge increase here, 22.92% in 1 month alone, 63, almost 64 million shares being bought here by institutions, right? And the biggest gainers are Old Mission Capital, Red Door Wealth, Maple Lane Capital. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that are increasing their allocation into the miners here as far as shares and ownership is concerned. Cypher is another one that's gone up quite a bit here, up 33% here in the last month increase, now at 69%, right? 117 million shares being bought out. So something's definitely going on interesting there. Let's take a look at IREN as well, see how that's increased 14% to 53%. That's as of the end of January here. Let's take a look at Riot, 17% there. Wolf, 5%, a little bit less of an increase there. Who else would be a good one to take a look at? BitTier maybe. BitTier had 10% increase, 24% now owned. So we're still seeing the institutions buying into these guys. It's just they're going along on certain things, and some people are shorting them as well. So, but if you have institutions buying them into them, that's got to bode pretty well, I would think. Time will tell. Eventually, I do believe that they will run, but I just don't know exactly when they will run. Just simple fact like this, right? Institutions are continuing to buy. Eventually, the shorts are going to, lose out there a little bit. But let's go back here. That's what we got here. Okay. Okay, there we go. Rome's 5 Chicago here. Hi Seb, question, is there a BTC CME gap of 76 to 80,000 that occurred around November? Yes, there is. If BTC fills this gap with miners drop 20% or more, IREN back down to 10 again. Yeah, if Bitcoin goes down to that amount, then yeah, the miners will probably drop 20-30% on that. And you can see that there is a gap there. I've talked about the gap in the past as well. I don't know if it's going to get filled or not, but historically it likes to get filled. Doesn't always have to get filled. There are times when it can not be filled and things can still go up here, but there's that gap right there, right? So November 10th, November 11th, somewhere around there, we have that gap. It's around 81,000 to 77,000. And that's why I said this might get filled. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a wick down here on one day or something like that, and then we go back up, possibly. I don't think it's going to be a slow drain down to that, and maybe it could be, but I don't think it would be. I think it would be just a wick down, get that gap filled. But that is, if we go from the top here down to that gap, it's roughly 30%, right? 29, 24, depending on where you look at it. So that could be a 30% drop, which is what we've seen here historically with Bitcoin in the past. We saw that happen here just even this past year alone, where Bitcoin was at 70,000, 73,000, whatever it was, right? And it dropped all the way down to here, just a quick wick down to it, we were down 33%. So I'm not counting that this can't happen here where we get a dip down. And in a way, I think it would be actually healthy. Getting that filled up, going back up would be nice. But we'll see. So something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying that it has to happen for 100%. I'm just saying that there is a possibility that this could happen as well. All right, let's see. Miner DGHI has a question as well. Hi Seb, do you have a chart of each miner's operating power and confirmed power pipeline? I do not, no. But that is something that would be nice to know. So maybe I'll do some digging into that as far as what they have currently plugged in and what their future power pipeline is like. Because that would definitely be, I know that IREN still has a lot, BitTier has a lot, Cypher has a lot still. Who else? Those guys. I think that's it. Bitfarms I know has some that they have possibility there as well. I'm trying to think of anybody else. I think that might be it that I know of right now. But I would have to do some more research into it. All right, question, where should Cleanspark be priced right now? Well, higher than where it's at, that's for sure. I'm not the only one thinking that, but I mean, the institutions are thinking the same thing, or analysts are thinking the same thing. Here's Cleanspark right now. As of Friday, I think they were at 10.50 or something like that per share. I think they should be somewhere between 26 and 40. Analysts are thinking they should be somewhere between 17 and 30, right? So they're definitely way undervalued from where they really should be here going forward. But eventually, I think we'll get there. I just don't know exactly when. Sometime this year, I'm hoping, right? That's the belief there. Let's go back to the Q&A. All right. Let's see. Another question from Rome's here. Hi, Seb. Question, which miners should I reposition to if I sell my 25,000 Bitfarms position? 2.8 average, I equally owned the FF, IREN, Cleanspark, Riot, Mara, and Cypher, or just buy all MicroStrategy and BTC ETFs? That's going to be your call, buddy. So I can't tell you what to do with it. I think I've mentioned this in last night's space. I think you asked me this question as well. And the only thing I can say is, can you make up that loss, which you're probably down 50% right now on Bitfarms based on the price and where it's at right now? Can you make that up with other miners potentially, right? So that's the only thing I can ask for you to ask yourself, basically, and then see if that makes sense for you. And then, you know, as far as, do you go into IREN, Cleanspark, Riot, Mara, and Cypher, or just get in maybe ETF like WAGMI or BitQ, something like that. You could go with a basket of those as well. Try that. You could go in a little bit of MicroStrategy, spread it out, right? So I would just say I wouldn't go in on one, because you just never know with any of these guys. You know, Riot could get a deal for HPCI. IREN could get a deal for HPCI. That could pump the stocks, or they could not get it. Cleanspark could do very well because of it. So it's tough. So you want to have at least a couple in there that, you know, you're comfortable holding for at least a little bit longer. All right. No Hansi here. A question. When are you going to sell out of the miners? Well, I could sell out of them now and I would be in the green, right? But I think there's still more gains to be made. So I'm still giving it time. I still think that the cycle, if we have a similar cycle like we've had in the past, that it will end somewhere around like the third, fourth quarter of this year. So I still have time. So I'm not looking to sell anytime soon here, but when I do start selling it, I'm going to start dollar cost averaging out. So let's say Bitcoin gets to 150,000. At that point, I'll probably start slowly selling out of these positions here as Bitcoin possibly goes up higher to like 200,000. That's going to be my game plan at least. Sadie, thank you so much for that. Yep, likes help the channel, absolutely. And I'm a terrible salesperson in my own channel and everything I do. I know that. That's why I'm not a salesperson. I'm a data guy. I enjoy data. But sales, I am terrible at sales. Let's see here. Hi, Seb. My Bitfarms average 2.4. Does it make sense to lower average? I put cash recently only in Cleanspark and IREN. At 2.4, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not happy with Bitfarms and that the way that they have performed here recently. Their guidance being lowered, their timeline being, you know, increased, basically going out even further out. I haven't been happy about it, so I've sold pretty much 2/3 to 3/4 of my position there in Bitfarms in the last couple months because of that. So that's going to be up to you. If you think, like I said to one of the other comments here or questions, can you make that up faster with somebody else? That's your question there that you have to answer yourself. Okay, MA has a question here. What do you expect from Riot's earnings on 22nd of February, and what are your thoughts on Riot going forward? Seems like they are seriously about AI HPC. A deal may not be too far away. Live long and prosper. Live long and prosper, my friend. So as far as Riot, where they could be, Riot, I don't know. Riot bought Bitcoin here recently, right? So I don't know how that is going to get. So that shouldn't be really converted over for FSB rules. And then let me see here. Where is it at? My EPS page that I have here. There it is. Okay. So, all right, let's take a look at this here. This is just an estimate on where I think the miners could possibly be with their earnings per share. Riot, I have them coming in somewhere between, let's see here. I think, no, Riot's down here. Okay, so Riot, based on numbers, start HODL was 629 million, end HODL was, okay, and I took out the 5,781 Bitcoin that they bought basically from that. So they would be about 1.1, 1.2 billion roughly at the end with the HODL. So that's an increase of 543 million, if my math is correct, and if I'm doing this correctly for the FSB revaluation on things. That would get us somewhere to like $1.61 to $1.43 maybe. I was off on Cleanspark by about half, right? They came in at, what they came in at 83, 80 some cents per EPS. I was at $1.87 to $1.68, so I was off by about half of that, which for them it was based on the Bitcoin that they had as collateral with their Coinbase loan, a revolving line of credit basically that they had there. So they had that secured with that. So that wasn't being able to be revalued, and that's kind of where I messed up on it. So with Riot, I think that might be correct, but I just don't know, right? It also depends on how much they put in for share-based compensation and like stock-based compensation and depreciation as well. I don't know those numbers really well. So that's why I'm saying somewhere between $1.61 to $1.43. I would say maybe from like 80 cents to $1.61, just to cut it in half, just in case I'm wrong in my math here. But I would expect them to have a positive EPS. So that should be pretty good for them. As far as what do I expect for them going forward, well, that's tough. We know that they have two activist investors there that are pushing their buttons a little bit, trying to make their case for HPCI. We saw that with the board members being changed out. You had, three board members being changed out there. One of them was the prior CEO of Hut 8, Jamie Leverton there, and a couple other people that have at least experience in HPCI design, build out, and things like that, and real estate. Okay, so we'll see what they get. If they can get something good for their 600 remaining, I think, megawatts left at Corsicana, that would be a good thing. But can they get it, and what will they do with it? So that's the question really there. So I really don't know. I know on their Bitcoin mining, they have a little bit more growth left, a couple exahash, I think, left to install, and then they're pretty much done with that. So as time goes on, the only thing that's going to be good for them there is Bitcoin price going up in value. That's going to generate more revenue for them. But other than that, they're going to be probably generating less and less Bitcoin because the network hash rate is going to go up, but they're going to be pretty much stuck where they're at for a while at least, until they either get an HPCI deal or they don't, and then they go back to Bitcoin mining. So that's kind of where we are at with that one right now. Okay, Mark says, I am out of questions, Seb. If BTC doesn't go up, we are screwed no matter how much planning we do. Yep, I would agree with you there. If Bitcoin doesn't go up, this is all for naught. All the data and tracking and everything else, well, that didn't pan out. So, yeah, it would not be good. Hopefully, you guys can at least sell partially in profit, hopefully. I'm still a little bit in profit here, so I'm happy with that, but I'm still expecting more. All right, LB has a question here. Why isn't Hive getting much love after announcing moving to headquarters to the United States and Forex growth? The reason might be their cost to mine Bitcoin. I think their cost to mine Bitcoin here for the Q4 numbers came in at like $70,000 per Bitcoin, which is high, too high. They need to get that number way down, so install much better machines, get their joules per terahash down as well. If we look at Hive here, I'm trying to find Hive here while I'm talking. But we can see here for Hive, we had them, 70,000 here, minus depreciation to mine a Bitcoin. Too high. And that's been going up here every single quarter, it seems like. So they need to definitely remedy that. At that point, maybe they will get some love if they provide pretty good numbers here for either Q1 or Q2, especially as they bring on sites in Paraguay and things like that and getting your machines in there as well. But that's also going to lead to more dilution, either that or they're going to be selling definitely a larger portion of their BTC HODL to fund that, which I would expect them to use a little bit of Bitcoin here that they have and some dilution as well to fund the growth to 25 exahash on it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. That's the only thing I can really see here currently. All right, let's go back to that. All right, let's see. Hi, Seb. What level should Cleanspark reach for most of shorts to see the pain? That I don't know. I would imagine if it goes back up to like maybe $18, $20, something like that, at that point, the shorts are going to start covering or switching over to going long maybe. That's kind of where I would think, but I just don't know. Let's see. Andreas says, I think Bryce and Anthony has a chart. We're talking about the chart of megawatts that are currently installed and potential megawatts. I believe they do as well. I'd have to look into it, but I think they do. Okay. See, Michael says, it would be nice if insiders would buy, then could give support and upside. We do have insiders buying from like Bitfarms, right? But they're also way, way undervalued as it is, I think. But yeah, anytime, depending on how much they buy, right? If they buy 10,000 shares or whatever it might be, that's not much for these guys. Let's see. Seb, your targets have drastically changed over the last couple of years. What's changed? Well, one is dilution that has obviously happened with these guys. And then it's just, gosh, institutions are more controlled than ever. So I don't know if they're going to let the stocks run up as far as I thought they would. In the past, we had more retail driven compared to what we have right now. And depending if retail does not really go back into it like they did last cycle, then that could be a reason for it as well. So it's just one of those things where you're evaluating and adjusting with time, unfortunately, I guess. All right. All right. Minor Degen has a question here. Should Cleanspark sell their entire HODL position this year and build a big IREN Riot type data center? I don't think they have to sell everything. I'd like them to sell a portion of it. At least they did that last cycle, right? They were selling into the bull run, but maybe they got different motives now. I don't know. But it would be definitely nice if they sold a portion of it, at least maybe like 30% to like maybe 50% of that, and use that to fund their growth in the bear market again. If we have another bear market, I would definitely like that. But right now, we have no sign of them selling a lot. So we'll see what happens as Bitcoin goes up to like 125,000, 150,000, if they sell more at that point or not. All right, let's see. What is the significance of Bitfarms receiving SEC letter 010625 acknowledging Forms 40F for years 2022 and 2023? Is that something Bitfarms are doing related to? No. That was an error. I believe, from my memory, I think there was an error or something like that that they had in their filing. So I think they had to refile those a couple quarters there. All right, let's see. February 12th, that Cleanspark did get an upgrade with price target to $20 from somebody. Yeah, I saw that as well. Hi, Seb. Thoughts on Cypher selling so much BTC, more than double their monthly mined at this point of the cycle? They're building out. They're getting things connected through electricity and things like that, so that costs money. And I guess they don't want to dilute. So that's the reason for it, more or less. Because they are still growing quite a bit, and they got big plans for second half of 2025 as well, growth there. So they're using that HODL position for both appreciation at times and to fund their operations as well. All right. Joel has a question here. If SBR, so Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, is announced, will you be holding any miners long term? Perhaps BTC surprises people to the upside and doesn't look back. That's one of the things that we're looking into, or at least one of the things I'm looking into, is whether or not Bitcoin will have a similar cycle like in the past. Will it go back down another, 70% after this cycle, which possibly would end in like the third or fourth quarter this year, or would we have an extended cycle? So that's going to be interesting to watch and see how that plays out. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen with that. If it's going to be an extended cycle, the reason I say we might have an extended cycle is because of all the adoption. We saw that also with the ETFs for gold when they got introduced. They had a multi-year run at that point. Could we see the same thing with the miners? Maybe. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll try to figure it out as best as we can. Alrighty, let's see here. Bitfarms versus Hive. I would say right now, honestly, I think maybe Hive might be the better one. Hive has a little bit more growth, 25 exahash by the end of third quarter. Bitfarms right now is saying maybe 18 exahash here by the end of the first half. So could they grow beyond that? Maybe. But it's tough to really see. They're both undervalued in my opinion. So if they do both catch a nice bid here, they could both do very well. I just don't know which one is going to do better really. But based on growth operations, they're both really good. Hive has just kind of surpassed Bitfarms here in their growth targets for this year. And I like growth. As you guys know, I like growth. Growth helps a lot of things here. Okay, now let's see if we got any other questions. I think that is it. All right, I think we'll call it a day. We're going on, today's actually pretty good. We're going on 35 minutes. So nice and short today. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day. Miners are going to be trading tomorrow. We'll see how they do. We'll see if we get any other news stories. We'll cover any other metrics that we do have. Maybe we'll look at institutions for the miners here recently. Short interests, maybe we'll get an update on that as well here coming up. Maybe not. We'll see. And then let me see here. Pit Farmer has another question here really quick. I can't see it on here. Let's go back over here. Let's see. Here we go. I said Market Beat has an article stating Chairman Matt sold 9,000 shares on February 14th. Would be better if they were buying. Yes, that would be better if they were buying. Did he sell because of maybe he got shares? I would have to look into it. I don't know exactly why he sold shares. A lot of times these guys sell shares just to cover the tax portion of shares being granted to them. So that might be the reason why. I would have to look into it. And then they did not answer my question. I thought I answered all the questions. Let me see. Did I miss yours or something like that? I thought I got them all. But I just covered the one that you did here. And then final question here. Do you still think BTC all-time high in February 2025? Could we get an all-time high here? And I'm not saying it's out of the question, but as the days dwindle down here for the end of the month, here we only have, what do we got? 11 days left roughly in the month. It's definitely getting harder and harder to get to like 109, 110,000 here. So we will see where that goes. And then let me see what else we have here. Bitfarms HPCI business operations. Could you explain a little bit more? That you're looking at more like in 2026 potentially for that. They are planning on doing like a little test projects for that as well. They need to learn from it, right? They don't have a lot of experience with that right now, so they need to learn on it. So if anything, I wouldn't see them doing anything until 2026 sometime, possibly there. So that's kind of what's going on there. All right, Nick has a question here. Wouldn't Hive be a great acquisition for Cleanspark? Maybe not. Right. I don't know if anybody wants to buy anybody else out. You're going to be paying a premium at that point. You can build out cheaper for yourself, right? So that's why we really haven't seen much of acquisitions happening here, except for really Bitfarms buying out Stronghold and Riot trying to buy out Bitfarms. So I don't know. I don't know if there would be any benefit to doing that. Let's see. BTC all-time high not until March, April. More consolidation ahead. Okay. What else do we have here? So many insiders on Cleanspark selling at 1064 on February 14th. So that's probably more to do with, let me see if I can pull that up really quick. Let me see if I can go into the SEC website and see what we got going on here. A lot of times it's going to be for tax reasons. Let's see here. CLSK. Oh, doggone it. Go back. Hold on. Bear with me. Cleanspark. Pull that up. Okay, let's see here. Proposed sale of securities. Okay, yeah, I see that February 14th here on Valentine's Day nonetheless. So here's that. Let's take a look at what's this one here. This one is, who's selling this? Mining Taylor, the chief mining officer there. Usually they put down a reason for it. Let me see. Reflect shares sold to cover the reporting person's tax liabilities in connection with the vesting and settlements of the RSUs. There it is, right? That's usually what it's about. So Taylor sold, let me see, 536 it looks like. How many number of shares? Sold 239. So he sold 239 shares. Okay. All right. Well, cover taxes. Who else sold there for tax reasons? We got Matthew Schultz. Sold 9,010 shares. Okay. And then that was also probably for Reflect shares to cover reporting person's tax liability. Okay. So I can understand that. And then who else do we have here? Probably had Zach as well. Gerson Scott Eugene. Don't know who that is. Maybe a board member there or something like that. Or one of the, how many did they sell? 1,337. Okay. Not bad. Who else? Okay, this one is Gary V. So that's the CFO there. He sold only 717 shares on it. And then we should probably get Zach. Zach sold 10,533. All right, so pay for taxes again. Reflect shares sold to cover. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. It's something that, well, they could probably pay out of their own pocket, or they could sell some shares to cover the taxes to do that. And that's kind of what they did. All right. So really nothing burger there. We see that with a lot of companies doing that. Not much to go on there. Okay. So you talked about that. Let's see. Christian says, I'm totally following you since 2021. I hate that BTF is logging or losing, I guess. Yeah, well, thanks for being with me since 2021. It's definitely been a journey, hasn't it? So, yeah, we shall see. All right, that is it. We'll call it a day. All right, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll get into some other metrics on the miners as well, things like that. So stay tuned for that. We'll do that tomorrow sometime, probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock, as always. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming in. Love you all. Have a great night. Until then, bye.